better or for worse, nothing is permanent, and you find yourself transitioning from one job or place to another. Being between these moments can be daunting due to the strange unfamiliarity. Is the grass truly greener on the other side, or do you just make a very terrible mistake? This is Turn and Face the Strange.
You said grass is the grass always green on the other side? I've moved around quite a bit. I've had, in my time in service here, I've had six job changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that the grass isn't always green on the other side. And to it, you almost have to be. There's going to be bullshit no matter where you go. It's just to what level are you willing to put up with, right?
Right.
Some of it, I went to places and like one of the jobs I went to, and it lasted 8 months, and I chose to leave because the manager was caught embezzling money and this other stuff, and I was like, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge here. I was like, I'm not going to be attached to this crap, right. and so I chose to move on, and then other companies I moved to, I'm like, hey, this isn't too bad, but but it wasn't good for the family life. Like, it was okay for me, but for my family at home, the hours I was gone and the time I was gone wasn't good for them. And so you have to just pick and choose what you want to do and what you're willing to put up with. Obviously pay is probably the number one reason. Crap management is why most people leave their job.
Mm-hmm.
And when they move on to another job, they usually go for the hopes of better management on the premise of they're getting better pay.
Right.
Right. So they go to the next job for more pay and hoping that they get better management. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you really don't. Sometimes you get over there like, oh yeah, I got more pay, but holy cow, this is some bullshit too,
Yeah. I remember, I think it was on Facebook or Instagram, we put up a meme. It was about transitioning, and this one listener said, it's like, the grass is always greener right next to the septic tank. And I wanted to laugh so hard because that's true for a good amount of cases where like it does seem a lot nicer, but that's only skin deep. And then once you actually go down into the dirt, that's when you really find all the buried shit or the septic tank. And like you were saying, right? Like sometimes almost all the time it's because of bad management. Sometimes it's the hours that just doesn't work out for you or yourself or the family. Maybe the travel time is just too much of a commute. Maybe the amount of work you're doing for the amount you're getting paid is in question. Whichever the case may be, is like something about your current position is just not sitting well with you, right? And it's one way or another is affecting your quality of life outside of work along with inside. Or sometimes, right, like the job is good, the people are decent, but all the stuff that's happening outside of it is just not working out for you, right? Like other departments are just not getting with it. Again, like say the commute time or the family time is just not there, or another department's boss is like really trying to push for demand and it just has nothing to do with you, but somehow it is affecting you, right?
Yep.
I see this happen a lot, especially now being in the quality assurance department again, is quality assurance in anywhere outside the military is a support role. So that kind of tells everybody who we're inspecting that we're there to support you. Like we work underneath you. So they get like this chip on their shoulder thinking like, I can tell quality what to do. Right. Or if quality is being too much of a dick to me, I can just go to my boss. My boss talks to our boss or to quality's boss and they put them in line and they shut up in color. And I don't know where they got this idea. Maybe because it's the support role that they keep hearing or that's keep getting pushed into their brain. But quality is there to make sure you guys are doing your shit right. Right. And it's also there to make sure that the stuff that the customer put out is being adhered to a degree of error. So when we're being dicks to you, it's not because it's personal. It's because that's what we're being held to. If it passes through your line with our signature on it and it gets dinged, we're the first ones to get it. Or even if it wasn't your fault, regardless if it was our fault or not, if something goes wrong, it's instantly our ding. So you get your face slapped enough times, you'll start being a dick too.
Yeah. With the quality thing, I always tell them, it's better me to find it than for a uniformed quality assurance person or like DCMA official to find it.
Right.
Far better the fail come from me than one of them, because if one of them fail you, that's contractual hits.
Yes.
Me, I'm just making sure you're not going to kill yourself or hurt somebody else or the asset. But is much more negative repercussions should the government find these faults.
Right.
And so, in the transitioning side of things, this is my first time in a quality assurance role, and I have to say, I'm still pretty nervous. I still got a lot to learn. And every job has its BS for sure. And that you just kind of have to go into it with that. But one thing I do appreciate is that I'm not micromanaged. They just say, here's what needs to get done. And I've built a good reputation with the guys on the floor. So they know, like now they know that, hey man, like we messed up. Hey, they'll call you out to the hangar. Like, can you like, what do we do? Can you help us? Can you this? Because I know I'm not just going to bury him right away.
Right.
They're like, hey, like, can you help us with this? Like, what should we do? Do I need to fill out anything? Is there anything you need to do? Like, we just want to talk to you first before this shit goes sideways. I'm like, hey, well, oftentimes like, we do have to fill out a form for this or whatever else because something got damaged, a piece of age equipment or whatever else. But sometimes I'm like, hey, you guys just got a little ahead of yourself and you kicked over a bucket and you got fuel everywhere. Just clean it up. Nobody's any worse for the wear.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Like, don't sweat that. Don't sweat the small stuff is kind of what I say. But in transitioning to this job, there's all things that come into play. You're talking about pay. What are benefits? That's a major thing. A lot of especially young guys don't look at is benefits. What kind of things that does it have? Not only medical wise, right? That's important, but like the micromanage thing. You and I have both come from a realm where we've been micromanaged into oblivion, and it's like no matter what you do, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And we were and been told that by management. Well, you no matter what decision you make, you'll always be wrong. One, you'll just be a little less wrong than the other. What the hell kind of what am I supposed to do with that? Now I don't want to make any decision. Right. Well, that'll be an ass chewing too. Like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So like in this current role, not being micromanaged, just being treated like an adult for once. And then, but also, having some authority, like walking onto the floor and people going, oh, good morning, Mr. QA, whatever else. Not that I expect that, but when you talk, you're listened to.
Yeah.
You're not just ignored, right?
Mm-hmm.
They approach you with questions. They do this. They do. Nobody's stepping on you because they think you're only a support entity. They know that. They know, and they know that. Hey, look, he's here to help us, and that's what I've said. He's here to help us, but fuck up enough times, I'm gonna hammer you. You know what I mean? And so there's that kind of respect, right? We all get along. We all do that thing. But there also is that, hey, just because we're cool doesn't mean you get out of jail free cards all the time. Right.
And I've said this to a lot of individuals, both as my current role as QA and then just QA in the whole lifespan that I've had. I would tell them, like, it's better for me to give you a reject or return to shop notice than for me to have to write like a non-conformance report or a hazardous material report and it has your name blasted all over it. You'd rather get the reject or the return to shop than the non-conformance. I promise you, because when the non-conformance goes up, everybody and their mother from you up to like the next higher customer level, like, is gonna read this and your name's blasted all over it. So that pretty much blacklists you for a whole lot of stuff, depending on how bad it was. If it's something like, You caused a 3-ply nick on a 2-ply max tolerance. Okay, whatever. But like some other stuff, like you like say for safety violations or for um process violations, oh, you're done. Like you're blacklisted for life, right? So
Yeah, and so to tie this back into the job transitioning, so we've started a thing recently, right? Because we're like, hey, we keep hammering you guys for the same stuff, and you tell us you're going to fix it. What are you really? And we're talking to the program management. What are you really going to do to fix it?
yeah,
What's your? I mean, other than just talking to the individual, what is your? So they've started a thing where they've actually started decertifying people.
no kidding.
Yeah, and man, I'll tell you, some of those guys are real bitter about it, and they're like, "Man, hell with this, I'm out, I'm leaving."
Hmm.
And they were talking about it on the floor. I said, "That's fine." I said, "Are you leaving the company altogether?" No, I've been here enough years, and I like the company. I want to stay so I can build up my time and what this and that. I said, okay, well, you're pissed off and want to leave because you were decertified. What does that look like on your resume when you go to the next program? Hey, I just couldn't be bothered to follow with processes and procedures, so I was decertified on X amount of things, blah, blah, blah. But I'd really like to come work for you on your program. I was like, how does that look, man? I was like, you got to be smart about it. I
Right.
said, you can't just act like a pouty child and when you don't get your way. I'm done. Like, I'll show them. Like, nah, they don't give a damn.
Yeah.
That's one thing you got to remember. Most of these, especially big companies, even small companies, you're just a number. Ain't nobody. They can tell you all day long that they care about you and that they really want to see you succeed and this and that. But at the end of the day, you're just a number, and you need to remember that. I'm
Mhm.
not saying be a dirtbag and slack off on your duties and responsibilities, but also know that you're just a number, and they'll replace you tomorrow if they want to.
Right. Nah.
So keep yourself as current and as up to date and as accredited as you can for that next job.
Right. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit to go on to emphasize your point you mentioned about like when is it time for you to move on? What's that trigger pull or that button push that makes you want to move on? And to summarize some of the feelings some of the stuff we mentioned is there's gonna come a moment where if you have to psych yourself out when to wake up and get to work and you're just like in this total blur of a time period, or you're just like going through life just like whatever, man, I'm just muddling through the dirt, or I'm just wading in the muddy water. That's probably a good sign that like it's time for you to move on, right? Or
Yeah, or you daydream about getting in a minor car accident just so you have an excuse to not go that day
right,
and
yeah, like
possibly the next day. Like you're, you know what I mean?
yeah, like risk of injury or like thoughts of hurting yourself or something like that, or you start valuing objects more than your livelihood. It's probably a good sign like you need to move on, man. So
Oh yeah,
now that we talked about like what's the trigger pull, right? And you kind of crossed into it about like um when does preparing turn into over analyzing, like when are you overthinking it and when are you actually like thinking of moving on, right? Because sometimes you're kind of in this um line, you're teetering the line between like, do I really want a new job, or is it just a bad day, or am I really like hitting that point where it's time for me to move on? So you kind of like have that little bit of anxiety, like, am I just thinking too hard, or is it really just that bad?
that's a great point. You bring that up because most people don't just wake up and say, I'm gonna quit my job today, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's months and months, even years, maybe in the making. Where, like you said, is it, man? Am I just being a baby today, and it's just a bad day, and I'm not handling it very well? Is it because my job actually is garbage, and I don't get treated very well for the amount of shit that I have to deal with?
Mm-hmm.
Is it you know is it I've one of those things like I'm too comfortable in my position, and therefore I'm not being challenged anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm finding faults. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm inputting faults where there are none because I'm not being challenged enough, so my mind's not occupied. And I'm thinking of other things. It could be a combination of any of this, but most people, it's months to a year more in the thought process of no, I'm gonna find something else.
Right. And then sometimes, like you're so against the unfamiliar that you just decide to just suck it up and stay because you don't want to transition to something brand new or start over or having to deal with the same BS on from square one again, you know? Uh, like going from the military to civilian life in my case, right? Like, okay, I'm used to being hammered by the rules. I'm used to being hammered by shitty management. I'm used to being treated like this. Like,
A
I'm
glutton for punishment at that point.
yeah, it's like, but then like there was moments, man, where like I could have quit well before my 15 years, and I was like, um, should I just stick around because I know it's BS, but it's familiar BS, you know, like I already know how to deal with it versus like going
Right.
into something else where like I have no idea who these people are, I have no idea how the company operates, I have no idea how they handle things. So like, do I want to start from square one again, or should I just stick with the familiar? You know what I mean?
Right. And well, a lot of guys like, hey, I don't want to start over again because I've got time in service here, so I don't have to work as hard as the newer guys. And so, but I hate my job because it's so much extra BS that I have to deal with in meetings and looking after these new guys. But if I go start over again, that means I'll have to turn wrenches again. And I don't want to do that kind of work anymore.
Right.
Okay, we'll find a job where you don't have to. No, but that means I'm not a senior. Like I can't tell certain people to go French themselves. You know what I mean? Because I don't have that time in service. Like I can't be brand new and tell me like your idea is fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can't. But then I'm like, so to wit, if that's your case, then you just gotta suck it up and you can't complain anymore. You chose to stay in the madness.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's a big one too, because you would have individuals, man, like you said, like a glutton for punishment, but they also don't want to start over, and they kind of like that idea. Like I can tell people to go French themselves, or I can treat the nuggets or the new guys how I want,
Yeah.
and I'm established enough where I can't get in trouble. You know?
Right. Yeah. Nobody can really tell me anything because I've been around for so long. So I hate my life, but I'm not willing to give. I'm not willing to give that sort of seniority or whatever you want to call it
Mm-hmm.
up for a better position.
Yep. Now, uh, even though say like you're gonna suck it up and drive on, whatever the case may be, you should always be prepared for that next step. Always, because you never know. Like sometimes, like your company's gonna last forever and you're gonna stay in your position, but in most cases, um, either they're cutting down on the department, they're laying a bunch of people off, something like COVID hits, and then we have no room for X amount of people to be here, right?
Man, if you work military stuff, contracts are everything.
Yep. And you know, well, we wrote a 15-year contract. Well, let me tell a little something that maybe not all of our viewers know. The military never writes themselves into a hard contract, right? Oh, we wrote the contract for 15 years. Well, if you think that they would have to hold out for 15 years when they don't really want to, they're not going to. right.
They'll pay whatever little waiver here. Oh, here, we're cutting it off early. Well, you owe us 10 mil. Yeah, here's your 10 mil. Now pound sand,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that,
Yeah.
and that's how it is. So things could be going really good, but like you said, something like COVID hits. Well, we're downsizing, we're whatever else. We realize that, you know, we're over expenditures and this is one of the programs we're cutting.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Now what do I do?
Right. Or
So you should always have, I always tell people this, new guys, old guys, whatever else. And I just sent you mine the other day, 6 again. But always have your resume updated. It should always be current, up to date. I'm not saying once a week update it, but you should always have a current copy that's at least within 1 month of relevancy.
right. And
You know?
a good rule of thumb for that is like whenever you guys come up for your performance reviews or whatever the case may be, however often that happens, quarterly, twice a year, once a year, that'd be the time to start updating your resume, because that's when you're hearing your boss's feedback, and that kind of answers a lot of like interview questions, like what does your boss think about you, or what are your biggest assets. You're hearing this from the horse's mouth, and you're getting the answers for the test. Throw that stuff in there, and what the metric is, you know, kind of tweak it a little bit so it sounds like you're the one saying it, not your boss. But you're taking their exact words, and so when you actually transition and do another interview, all those answers are already there.
Right. So when they often ask you, what's your biggest weakness and what's your greatest strength? Well, for most people, that's hard to write about yourselves, right? Most of us aren't conditioned to be like, I'm the best at this. And my communication skills are lacking or whatever else. We're
Mm-hmm.
not programmed to talk ourselves up and talk ourselves down.
Mm-hmm.
So use your boss in those instances, like Six said, use your boss's words. Hey, excellent communicator, excellent writing skills. Fantastic at deep diving issues and writing new procedures. Like use all that stuff.
Right. And then as you're building your resume, you may like some info might not be relevant no more, right? Like we're not gonna track everything you've done for the past 18 years or whatever. Some people haven't changed the job in like 10, 15, however many years. So a lot of stuff you had in your old resume is no longer relevant, right? Or say like, or you've only held one position for like the last 15 years, but when you first went in, you know, you didn't have anything. So this is where you can go from just telling what you've experienced to what you're good at doing, right? Like start expanding on the skill base, like the knowledge, your skills, and your abilities, right? Like expand on that, right? And you can use specific examples at work as to what fulfills that role, right? We can go into a whole episode about resume writing in of itself, right? But there's better people on YouTube and better people who you can hire to do this stuff that are way better than us. But like
and you can even do like what Six and I do is we send each other our resumes. Hey, can you read this over? Tell me if it sounds good. Think of any better words I could use, whatever. And we that's how we do it. We just bounce it back and forth and say, because you know, if you're looking at your own resume all the time, you're like, it looks good to me, but I'm not the person reading it on the other end. So let me have somebody on the other end read it and see how it sounds and how it looks. And oh, hey, you're a little wordy here, but you should expand on this over here. Use this word instead of this word, and you know, all that kind of stuff. Like you use your friends and counterparts.
Right, absolutely. And another quick tip about resumes, we kind of went into this a little bit in our Q&A episode, is keep it short, right? Short, simple, to the point, because most people, like hiring managers and recruiters, they have the attention span of maybe like 2 minutes tops, right? So if I have to like dig in more than 2 minutes on a resume, you're done. Like it doesn't matter if you're like the most qualified person in the world. If I have to like really like dig down with a microscope or like really read stuff because you decided to put everything in a resume, you're done. And that's just it.
Well, and know this, that and most companies now have a computer program, right? You submit your thing and it gets run through this computer program, and that computer program is looking for specific keywords for whatever that job is you applied for, right?
Right.
And if it doesn't see any of them or enough of them, it just automatically discards you.
Yep.
And that's why I say you got to use, bounce it off your friend to say, hey, does this all sound right? Because you don't want to be, again, you could be like Six said, the most qualified person in the world, but maybe your writing skills aren't so great. You're an excellent mechanic, top of the line, can't be beat, but your writing skills might be a little lacking, and so that automatically just discards you from the job applications.
Right.
So, and then also, let's say you make it through the system, right? Now it's in the hands of a recruiter. Well, let's face it, 9 times out of 10, the recruiter is somebody who's never worked on the asset in their life or never been a mechanic on anything. They're a recruiter for HR, for human resources. And they're just looking for those keywords or whatever else too. Oh, who's looks the nicest? Who's is worded the nicest? Who's, who used a certain type of font? I don't know. But
yeah.
But you have to write it to where it can finally make it to the hands of somebody when they read your credentials goes, oh yeah, this person's got their stuff squared away, because they understand and know what they're reading on your resume.
Right. And I would say this again. We're kind of expanding a little bit on the resume. Is if say you do get hit up by a recruiter or a hiring manager, give answers similar to what you put on your resume. I swear, right, man. I've actually interviewed somebody who was saying one thing, but his resume says another. Like, wait a minute. I had to like double take. Like, am I talking to the right person? It's like, is your name so and so? Like, yeah, that's me. Like, you live in this place. Like, I'm actually having to double verify information to make sure I'm talking to the right person. And then so
Yeah.
like, okay, so like it says you did this, but like you're telling me something else. Like, so what's going on, right? Instantly, right then and there, you're done, right? Because if I have to clarify stuff that makes no sense to your resume, and I get it.
Yeah, I feel like you're lying to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it because sometimes people they'll hire an individual or they'll have someone who's really expert level at resumes, and they'll church up one for you, right? But they'll say it in such a way that like kind of jumps out, right? Like it embellishes a little bit more than what it is, right? But
Yep.
if you're gonna do that, that's cool. But at least like have it ready so whenever you do get the call up, you have your answers at least match because like nothing will turn somebody off than something that doesn't match up to what you said on paper that you verified that is straight and true, and then it
Right.
doesn't come out of your mouth the same way. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And you never know who you're gonna run into, right? Like the area where Six and I live is a big aerospace industry is in this area. Numerous companies, multiple locations, all within, you know, as close as 5 minutes to an hour's drive from each other.
Mm-hmm.
You never know who you're going to run into at the store or on the plane ride, flying somewhere. You know, so have that resume ready because somebody's like, hey, what do you do? Oh, I do this, this, that. Oh, really? Have you ever considered this? You know, I'm such and such over at this company, and I'm looking for a new whatever. Have you ever considered that? Well, no, I haven't really given it much thought. Well, do you have a resume? Well, yeah, here. Hey, you're somebody who I could use, you know?
Yeah.
And then there you go. You might even enjoy your job, and you're like, yeah, I'm not even looking, but this guy comes along and says, hey, here's something better that you didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's the pay? Oh, it's $140,000 a year. Well, dang, I'm only making $80,000 now. 140 sounds pretty damn good.
Heck yeah.
You just never know. So the transitioning might even come when. Well, it all, for me, I always feel like it comes when I least expect it. I think this last one was the only one that I saw coming. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I kind of knew it was coming. But every time before that, it was mostly just running into people. Like the job when I took it back east, I was working on a ramp in Santa Barbara, and there were two mechs across the way from another company, and they needed to borrow a tool that we had because they were on the road, and we were just an hour from our home base. Hey, we weren't able to bring this type of tool with us because we flew out here. Do you guys have anything like that? Oh yeah, let me pull it out of the van. You guys can use it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thanks. And then just that conversation, and sure enough, that took me to a job on the other end of the country.
Yeah.
Just that conversation. So you just never know when it's going to come.
Yeah. And I will say, especially if you're actually considering transitioning or moving from one place or one job to the next, don't burn your bridges, right?
No, don't.
Do not do that. I mean, unless you know for sure, like this company is going under, I will never work here again. I will not touch foot anywhere near these areas ever again. Then, I mean, take it for what it is. Go ahead. But do not burn your bridges because, like, say for whatever reason you go from company A to company B or place A to place B, and that place blows, and you think to yourself, okay, I made a big freaking mistake. I wonder if company A or place A will get me back. But you just said fuck the world when you left. You can grovel all you want, and they're not gonna entertain you at all. And you're like, oh, guess who came crawling back to daddy? You know?
Yeah, and you got to also understand that if you go back to a company you worked at before, which I have, there will be a lot of that. So just understand that. They're like, oh, so the grass really wasn't greener,
Mm-hmm.
and you just got to be an adult about it and go, nope, it wasn't. And then I'm back here now, and this and that. And everybody gets, oh yeah, I thought you were a big person leaving this and that. But in all reality, it's just probably your friends that you worked with before just giving you a hard time out of fun.
Right.
But you got to know that I wouldn't have been able to go back had I burned bridges, I guess.
Right. Or like say like you burned a bridge with a manager who you thought at the time was a total dick, right?
Right.
He may or may not have been. It could have been just a job, but whatever case or another, you burned that bridge. Like F the world. I hate you. I don't ever want to see your face again. I don't want to work for you no more. Fuck you. Right. And then you go and then for whatever reason or another, you find him in charge of another company or some shit, and it's someplace that you want to go to, and you guys see each other in company C or place C, and oh, look who the fuck it is. Like, oh, god damn it, right? And he still remembers that time when you told him to go fuck himself, and now your new job is hinging on his acceptance of you, and you really think he or she's gonna wanna like put you into consideration? Fuck no.
Nope, not at all.
Not in the least. So again, like, I mean, if moving or transitioning or going or changing jobs is the decision you're gonna make, like, do as best you can to preserve what you have there, because you never know if you're gonna have to find yourself coming back there, or if the people who are in charge of you or worked alongside you are gonna be at a new spot that you're trying to get hired in. Though those can be the make or break for you, especially if they know you're a piece of shit. So,
Well, like I always say, it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
yes.
You have to make those connections. That's why we're talking about don't burn the bridges, make the connections. You never know who's going to be your new boss, right?
Yeah.
I had a job in the past where I took it, and my new supervisor was a guy I'd worked with in the past. Not directly, we were on different programs, but I knew of him. But you hear the horror stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess some people are less than adequate, or have kind of an attitude of themselves, and they think higher of themselves than they probably should. But that helped me get the job just by knowing that individual, and we end up having a pretty good relationship after that. It's one of those don't judge a book by its cover type thing.
Right. I remember my supervisor from one of my last companies. I think you and I were there too. He mentioned that in a previous company, he had this one boss who was like a total fucking dick to this guy, like just being a straight up asshole. And then when he retired, he's like, "Fuck the world! I hate every single one of you," and left. And then our boss becomes our boss for our current company, and then the retired guy who said "fuck the world" tries to get hired by the company, and he finds out that the one of the guys he said "fuck the world" to, his subordinate, is now his hiring manager. So, my, how the turntables,
My, how the turntables.
I mean, imagine that, right? Imagine being in that spot. Like, you had a boss who was like a complete asshole to you. And then he leaves, you leave. You end up going to company B and becoming a big somebody, like a level 2 manager or somebody important. That same boss who was a total douche to you tries to get hired by the company, and now you're the one in control of his livelihood. I'm like, yes, I got you now.
Good, come into my office.
I got you now.
Sam got you now.
Right? Or what's the other one? Like, check out the name tag. You're in my world now.
You're in my world now.
Like, that's the ultimate power trip. Like, yes. Another one is, you ever seen Band of Brothers?
Not in a long time.
Okay. There was this one scene at in Band of Brothers where, like, this one lieutenant had this captain who's like a complete freaking asshole to him, and then they go their separate ways, and then the said lieutenant becomes a major, sees the captain again, but he never got promoted, and so like they have like this like awkward stare down as they pass by each other, and like, hey captain, like, major, just kind of gives like this dismiss, like, hey major, motherfucker, and then, and then you can kind of see like the friction in his face, like god damn it, I hate you, fucking lieutenant, becoming a damn major, how dare you get promoted. Right? But I don't know, like I haven't ran into a situation like that, but I don't know how I would deal with it. I'm just like, I probably like rub it in his face a little bit, like good.
So I see that quite a bit in my current gig. There's a lot of guys who are kind of upper brass, who got hired on here at this job, and a lot of them took management positions. But like, there was one instance where one of their subordinates in the military is now their boss in the civilian world, and there's like, well, if it isn't Colonel so and so, remember me, Colonel? Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm your new boss, like in Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Guess what, Peter LaFleur? I'm your new boss. But yeah, anyways. I
love that movie, man.
I know. I just watched it last weekend with my dad. It was hysterical.
Heck yeah. So that brings up a good point. Um, and I think, and this kind of revisits a subject we touched on earlier, is if you're going from one position to another, just know that sometimes you might have to take a dip in your position level, right? Like say, for military guys especially, oh, military man, like my heart goes out to every single one of you, but once you take that uniform off, that rank doesn't exist. Okay, take that
Yeah.
with a huge grain of salt. Like if you were a E9 or an officer or something like that, when that uniform comes off, you're just Joe. No one cares, right? No one cares how many medals you got. No one cares how many stripes or shiny shit you got. You're just now Joe. So when you take these positions, like you could have been like some major big boy boss or big girl boss. Now you're just whatever. You got to learn to bridge that gap, or got to learn to dial it down some and take some humility, because these individuals who probably were never in the military or were once in the military at a lower rank and now they're higher up than you, they tell you what to do, and you can't just come in there toting around like, oh, I was a freaking sergeant major, or I was a master gunnery sergeant, or I was a 2-star general. Like, cool story, bro. No one gives a fuck. Get
Right.
out. Here's your broom and go get the sweeping. Fuck you.
Well, and I think a common misconception when people transition is that just by the type, each company labels their positions differently. It might be the same job title or job description and duties,
Mm-hmm.
but they have it labeled differently. So over at this company, you might be, inspector, lead inspector, 4 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at this company, you're just called, you're just a quality inspector.
Right.
Okay, it's the same thing, everything else, but people get hung up on titles. So what I'm getting at is, don't get hung up on titles, because titles don't always mean more pay.
Right.
It's just how that company chooses to word that. So a lot of people get hung up on like, well, I don't want to take that because it's just this. I'm like, yeah, but what's the pay? I don't know. I didn't apply because it says this. I'm like, the pay could have been $45,000 more a year than what you're making now, but you won't apply to see because of what the job title is.
Ooh.
So don't get too hung up on titles, because I think a lot of people, like you were saying, right, getting out of the military, you put your time in, you made a certain rank, you've earned that respect or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter on the civilian side. What matters on the civilian side, and is what's taken me a long time to learn, is that money talks, man.
Yeah.
You want to call me janitorial services of bathroom tile grout, fine. If that pays 140 a year, you can call me whatever you want to call me. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I don't care.
Right.
I just want the money.
Right. No, and that goes again too. Like, just because the pay is higher doesn't mean your title's greater either. You know what I mean? Like your pay can be freaking up the walls, like in high double figures, mid triple figures, but your area of responsibility is really low. And some people, that gets to their head, right? Like, oh, I make 100,000 a year. Like, cool story, bro. You're still not in charge of me.
Yeah, you have to do more than me, and you make less than me. Ha. Like that was you and I in a past position.
Yes. And I think there's also, I think one of the girls at DTM mentioned that too. Like, she was like a manager's assistant. I think I got that right. Like a manager assistant, and was getting X pay. And then there was like this secretary who just like answered phone calls all day and was making like just as much, if not more, than she was. I'm like, WTF.
Oh, yeah, just because she was older. Like, well, she's got a family. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. So like, don't take in the salary compensation as you're higher ranking, or you're higher in the importance chain than somebody else. Say, your salary package may have been due to your circumstances. Who the hell knows? But that doesn't mean tell people what to do just because you make more. I'm telling you right now, they will slap you down pretty good, one way or another.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, don't get too hung up on the titles. Money talks, and benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's look at it this way, right? Let's take another aspect of it. Well, I was making 120,000 a year. Okay, but I don't like the job anymore. It's not fun for me. I'm not learning anything. I lost my job. Whatever. Okay, well, here's a job over here that's only paying 70.
Yeah.
Man, that's a massive pay cut. It sure is. But what are the benefits like? Are the benefits cheaper? Are they equal coverage but cheaper cost? Like talking with a friend of mine the other day. Actually, yeah, they're actually no cost to me. The company pays 100% of it. So, so that nothing gets taken out of your paycheck. No, fantastic. Okay. What other benefits? Well, I'm getting ready to sell my one vehicle because the company provides me a vehicle. Oh, well, that's nice. And they pay for it all? Yeah, all I have to do is pay for gas when I'm using it for personal use. Oh, so like you don't have to pay for gas every day when you're driving to and from work? No, it'd just be on the weekend if I wanted to drive and go visit someplace. Okay, awesome. So they're covering the insurance on that too. Yep, fantastic. So there's a lot of jobs, right? Where well, I don't know. Let's say there's a lot, but there are jobs or were jobs that have these added benefits. So the pay is lower, but there's much higher perks, i.e., you're probably taking home more at the end of the day because you're not paying a car payment. You're not paying that car insurance. You're not paying medical benefits. You're not, you have a company credit card and they allot you 500, 400 a week in grocery bills or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
So yeah, your annual pay isn't as high as it once was, but you have so many added perks, right?
Yes.
Which makes up for all that. So you end up taking home more at the end of the day. Like that's fantastic too.
Yeah.
So again, don't get hung up on titles and numbers. Like it's a lot of it is benefits and perks and things like that. Like what else comes with that job?
That's a really good point you mentioned there, man, because that was a big transition factor for me, especially coming out of the military, because everyone jokes about like, oh, you're military guys, you don't get paid that much. True. But like what MVP said, man, like, but my medical's covered, my insurances are covered, my utilities are covered, my housing's covered. Like my paycheck is just like my spend me money. Like I'm just there.
Right.
That's my fuck you money at that point, because everything else is covered. If you can find a civilian job or any job or company that does something similar, yeah, your take home salary is probably like 40K. But if everything else is taken care of or compensated for, that's a win. Because I can tell you now, man, like especially here in California, like that living wage, it's real steep. I'll say that much. It's real steep. You would need like at least 70K or more just to survive in somewhere as high priced as California.
I mean, even 70K will only get you in certain areas.
Yes.
Like that's not anywhere in the state, mind you. It's only in certain areas. But like, so that's another thing, like people, you also got it when you're transitioning, where are you moving to?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was working in South Florida, and Florida's got no state tax and this and that. So, pay is this and that, but I'm taking this job in California. I want to go experience that California sunshine. Okay, well, what did you take in pay? Well, I just took an equal pay transition. Well, it doesn't equate, man. You're gonna be losing out your ass because of the taxes and everything else.
Yes, and then
location's a big aspect too.
Right, and then like most people who are in California know that almost everyone that works in California, they commute some distances from where they actually live to where they work, and some of them are anywhere from 30 to an hour and some change. So now you got to factor in like the commute time. You got to factor in all sorts of other stuff that you probably
all the gas expenditures, the cost for your vehicle going up.
So that's another thing you get if you guys are going from one place to another, is you got to factor in like all the hidden fees, right? Like the stuff that you normally don't worry about because you're more concerned about how much money you're taking in to pay the things that you need to. I remember there was this one meme that says like I wait till when I get paid, I wait till I pay all my bills to see how happy I really am.
Right.
Oh my God. As I tear up, like, oh my God, it's so true. How happy am I going to be this paycheck or this payday?
Well, that's it. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. There's lots of factors to take in when looking into getting a new job, which is what we talked about earlier. Like a lot of people don't just wake up and say, I'm quitting my job today without having something else in line. And most of the time that's been a year, months to years in the making,
Right.
weighing out the benefits of different places. Do I want to leave the state I'm in? Do I want to leave the town I'm in? Do I want to leave family, friends, kids, schools, whatever that cost? There's tons of factors to account for when taking on a new job.
Yes. And so, and again, it all comes down to what's best for you. Like what's best for you, what's best for your family. And to figure that out, you really need to sit down with your family if you got it and really figure out those hidden fees or those hidden movements, right? Like how much do you spend for food? How much do you spend for gas? How much do you spend for this? It sounds like a pain. And some of these are very circumstantial, but when you figure all these out, you can come out with a fairly accurate price tag of how much it's gonna cost for you to live the way you are or live better, and then how much you're willing to take in compensation and salary. Because if it doesn't meet those, you're gonna have to start cutting stuff away. And some people are very set in their ways and don't like to lose certain aspects of their livelihood. So those are things you need to consider, especially when you're moving from one state to another or from one section of a state to another, because those places have different tax laws
Right.
too.
Well, even like Six said, get your spouse involved if you have a spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get your spouse involved, get your kids involved, because they might bring up things that you're not really thinking about, right? You're focused on the job, you're focused on the benefits, you're focused on the pay, but you might, if especially if you got kids that are teenagers and in school, you say, man, this would be such a great opportunity for us as a family. But the kids are going, yeah, but I'm involved in sports here. I'm 16. All my friends are here. Like this is all I've ever known. And so you go, man, I don't want to take the kid away from all that at 16 years old. He's only got 2 more years to go. And then he's out the door. And then we can maybe revisit the moving situation at that point in time. Right.
Right.
There's just lots of factors too. I mean, I know my dad gave up a great opportunity. I think when I was probably 12 or 13, because we were established where we were at.
Yeah.
With my sister and I, with our friends and everything.
Yeah.
In school and sports and whatever. So he let it go because that it would have been better for us to just remain where we were at as the family, not for him, but as the family.
Right. And sometimes that happens, right? Like it'll cost more to transition, and which does happen sometimes.
Sure.
And so in those cases, you're just gonna have to swallow the pill and just deal with it and try to make life as best as you can where you're currently at until you're coming to a point where okay, now we're at the moment where we can make a decision. Because sometimes like what MVP alluded to is you'll make that snap decision because you're just fed up with your job and whatever, and you didn't factor in anything else. You make that move, and now everything is like 5 times harder than what you expected because you didn't account for all those other hidden movements.
Little expenditures that add up here and there.
Right, and then moving itself is an expenditure in itself. That's probably like the largest amount of waste is traveling from point A to point B.
So another thing to contemplate when searching for a new job that might take you away from the area you're in. Does that company have pay for moving expenses, or is that, hey, we're going to do this, but it's all out of pocket to you on the move? Like, damn, well, I got to move. I got it's me and a spouse and 3 kids and 2 dogs, and let's see, we have a 2,500 square foot house full of you name it from life, and let's see, it's going to cost me $25,000 to $30,000 to get it all moved to the other side of the country.
Jeez.
I don't know a lot of people, but I know for me that's not even financially feasible.
No, not even the least.
To just move, right, for the job. Like, okay, well, is the job paying me $500,000 a year? Maybe I risk it for that. Take out a small home loan or a business loan or some shit to move. But like, yeah, if it's one of those like, oh yeah, you got to move it across the country, but you got to foot the bill if you want this job. Like, I can't do it then.
Right. Now, maybe if you can fit everything into a U-Haul truck, like a decent sized U-Haul truck, which is like, I don't know, like 3,000 for the run, cool.
Yeah, if you're a single person and all you got you and a couple of things in your car or whatever, all right, yeah, make the plunge. Who cares? But that again, that's just people in different stages of life. So a lot of opportunities get passed up by people with families just because they can't do the move. Or let's just say you're single, this and that, but your whole family is based on one end of the country, and you don't really want to move away from them. I get that too. Again, what's better for your mental sanity, both in and out of work. So lots of things to consider.
Most definitely, all kinds of stuff. And again, you do what's best for you. That's really what it comes down to. It when that trigger pull happens, or that button push happens, and it's something you want to do, just be prepared, right? Factor in all the things that you consider. Maybe talk it over with your spouse or someone else who has done something similar, like a similar transition. Hear what they have to say, so like bridge the gap of stuff that you may or may not have seen, and maybe some easier ways to do it than you have not considered.
Yeah, and know this: you're not stuck. If you get over there and figure out it just wasn't for you, it would look better on paper than it is in person. You're not stuck. Yeah, you might have to suck it up for a little bit, or maybe you signed a 1-year contract or something. But once that's up, bounce again. I always thought I was going to be one of those people who worked 40 years at one place and retired, and within the span of a decade, I think I've changed jobs six times or so. So the first time was the hardest, and it just gets easier. And I know at some point it's probably going to have a negative. It's going to have a negative maybe stipulation on me, right? Like, man, he moves around a lot. But like I told him, in this last interview, they gave me examples. They're like, hey, you kind of bounce a little bit, and I'm like, yeah. And I was like, would you care to elaborate? Sure. And I gave him explanations. Manager embezzlement. Company pissed off its customers and withheld work and was losing money, so it wasn't financially feasible for me to hang around. Tired of being having all this responsibility and no authority and getting shit on for it. You name it. And they're like, oh, okay. They're like, we just wanted to see if you had valid reasons, or if you're just one of those like, nope, fuck this place. I hate it here, or just what your excuses were. Like, oh, I didn't get my way, so I quit, type thing.
Yeah. At least get those stories right. Final thoughts, MVP.
I think we just kind of said some final thoughts. Like I said, update your resume, make sure it's polished, get your friends to proofread it for you. Take in all the factors when considering a new job, from benefits to pay to location. Get your family's input, and know that you're not stuck if it doesn't work out.
Fantastic points, man. All good points, man. I'm actually writing this down as you're talking. and again, in the end, this is all what's best for you. Like, you're the one who's gonna know. Like, if you're in a shitstorm of situation, or it's detrimental to your way of life, one way or another. And when it's time to go on, it's time to move on. It's time to move on, and don't just let it sit like you're stuck. Like what MVP said. And just know, like, if you do make a transition and it was a bad call, you're not stuck. There's still ways to move on. You might have to suck it up a little bit, but you just know nothing's permanent.
Yeah, nothing's set in stone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'd like to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to keep producing episodes, bring on guests, and keep Shoreline ever happy to produce our show. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Stephanie Boatman, Jenny Dignan, Ryan Frushauer, Daniel Schubert, and Steven Shivers. Thank you all, our patrons, so much for all your support and, again, your patronage. If you have ideas, topics, or stories for the show, or you would like to be a guest on the show, visit cancelformaintenance.com and drop us a line on our Contact Us section. We will do whatever we can to get you and or your ideas onto the show. Check out our sponsor, Rockwell Time, for all sorts of outdoors and sporting apparel such as watches, safety-rated sunglasses, and snowboarding goods. Visit rockwelltime.com, use code CX4MX, and save 10% off your purchases. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/cancelformaintenance. Patronage, again, allows us to continue making episodes and maintain our gear. Patrons also get exclusive perks such as access to our Discord, and discounts to our upcoming merch.